Good morning, Hanna. I'm pleased to see you. Um, well, first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself briefly and tell me a little about your professional background.
Yes, my name is Hanna Outakoski, and at the moment I live in Sweden, in northern Sweden, and I teach my own language, North Sami. And I come from Finland originally, but I moved here already 98. I've been teaching here, first being a student and then taking on the teaching career. So that's kind of my professional background. Yes.
Okay, and teaching, you mean you're teaching languages?
Yes, I teach one of the 9 remaining endangered Sami languages,
Hmm.
and my language is called North Sami, and it's a special. Well, all the Sami languages are special because they are seen as the only indigenous language in Europe, and then apart from teaching North Sami, I've also taken part in designing in English, Finnish, and Spanish classes in virtual environments. So, but not teaching so much in those subjects.
Okay, and what is your specific language focus um, in your Sami courses?
Well, I have kind of a broad focus because I'm the only North Sami teacher at my university. Also, North Sami is only taught at 2 universities, and our university is the one that has higher levels too. So I'm kind of teaching everything for
Okay.
my North Sami students, and I teach adults. I have also beginners, and I have mother tongue speakers and advanced learners. So it's kind of a broad
That's a
focus.
wide range, yeah. Uh-huh. And which technology or platforms do you generally use in your classes? You mentioned virtual worlds, but any other platforms you used to be working with?
Mhm. Well, from the virtual worlds, I use Second Life. I'm familiar with other ones too, but I've been teaching in Second Life solely. But I also combine Second Life with Adobe Connect, and
Okay.
then we also use additional course platforms called Moodle and Sakai, and the Sakai system that is used here at our university is called Cambro.
Okay. Hmm. I know you have been involved in teaching and learning in 3D learning environments. Could you explore a little about that?
Well, my involvement in 3D environments was not a plan. It was not a planned move, not at all. But our university moved most of our Sami courses from campus to the internet in 2008. And
Okay.
at the same time, the same communicative learning goals remained unchanged on the courses. And one large part of the course has always been the oral communication or conversation.
Hmm.
And faced with this kind of new teaching solution, then I started exploring my options, and I quite quickly found Second Life a suitable environment for spoken language training for Sami. And I still find it a little bit challenging, but
Hmm.
I see everything as a useful learning, and I have gained good didactic skills that suit the virtual environment. And I also have found some new solutions for teaching Sami in these kind of environments, and other solutions for problems that I had with teaching environments earlier. And it has made my life a lot
Hmm.
easier.
Hmm. I mean, you mentioned Second Life as the platform you use. I mean, many people report that who teach children report that it's difficult to get children into Second Life for many reasons. Have you ever tried any other platforms, or have you ever faced problems with Second Life with children?
Well, because I don't teach children, I teach
Okay.
adults only.
Ah, okay.
I only teach students at university level, so everybody is over 18. Uh,
Okay.
but there have been other problems with Second Life and with my students, and it has to do with, for example, network connectivity or that
Mhm.
kind of problems. And
Mhm.
of course, we have experienced a wide range of problems,
Okay.
but in the course of time, I have also found some solutions, find some
Okay.
solutions to them.
Okay. I mean, what kind of technical problems were they that you faced?
Well, Second Life is kind of known to us Second Life teachers from problems with voice, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Various problems. It could be that the voice doesn't work, or it's breaking, or having to do with network connectivity. And also, sometimes, not on the Sami courses, but some other courses where I've been involved, we have had problems with unwanted visitors who have not been very kind to the students at all times. But these are still adults, so I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's we can cope with that kind of
So you
thing.
had griefers and
Yes.
such kind of problems. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you said you solved the problems, the technical problems. What did you do to solve them?
Well, for example, with voice, because I have been using Adobe Connect as my support
Okay.
platform.
Mm-hmm.
Adobe Connect is a kind of it's a clever platform because you can actually take control of the other person's computer
Mm-hmm.
through screen sharing,
Yeah.
which means that my students who didn't have always so many skills, I could show them exactly on their computer how to choose the right preferences, how to choose the right
Okay.
voice, and so on. And even to click on those things and to make it work for them. So,
Ah, that's
yeah.
very useful. Yeah, sounds like it. What do you associate with virtual learning?
I think that so many things can be included in virtual learning. And I think that the most common idea is to think of course platforms that can be quite static
Mm-hmm.
when people think of virtual learning.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that I have also seen other sides of virtual learning. Kind of, for me, it has to do a lot with the environment itself, the
Mm-hmm.
kind of possibilities and potential of virtual spaces and the freedom and creativity that it creates, and the combination of different virtual learning spaces. And of course, the possibility to self-design learning tasks and so
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of not sure that my university has really grasped the potential of virtual learning. And of course, in my subject, the Sami subject, I think that in indigenous contexts, all teaching should not only be virtual teaching. I think that there should be a combination of different things. And that should,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I think combination should be something that should be considered everywhere, at least in
Yeah,
language teaching.
absolutely. I absolutely agree. I mean, you mentioned already some of the advantages 3D environments have compared to learning languages in the physical classroom. Can you think of scenarios that are difficult to realize in the physical world but could be easily set up in a virtual world?
Well, I think that the space itself, it kind of lends itself to a wide commute of experiments.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that could be learning tasks, it could be cooperation, conversation, and I think that for my students who are scattered all around the Scandinavia, we cannot meet somewhere
Mm-hmm.
to make the conversations happen. So just to have a meeting place and then to have actually a meaningful task to do in that environment. And I think that if I watch my colleagues who teach in classrooms here, their students cannot go to the zoo, and their students cannot just explore an island
Mm-hmm.
with huts and all that kind of stuff. So I think I have myself designed communicative learning tasks for my students that at the same time kind of train their other skills that can be connected to Sami culture. And for example, a real example of this is a map quest where the students, they must pay attention to a certain kind of terrain
Mm-hmm.
while they are giving each other instructions on how to do the communicative task at the same time.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm. You have produced machinima, as I know, because I've seen them. When did you first come across making and using machinima for language teaching?
I think that for me, I've been kind of experimenting myself by myself alone and making kind of short films for teaching languages and instructional films
Mm-hmm.
mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I understood the importance of using film in this way in virtual worlds when I was myself learning about Second Life. So I was watching films on YouTube that explained things, how things are working in Second Life. And I was also looking at more artistic films. And even though I have not worked so much with Machinima myself, I would really like to do it in my teaching much more often. So I have some plans of using Machinima more when discussing, for example, oral traditions or Sami people's storytelling traditions.
And what advantages or disadvantages do you see in using such Machinima videos in your language learning?
Well, as I said, I think that the advantages are clear. Everything that is new, every new kind of materials, all kinds of tasks that are new for the students, everything is good. And it can be Machinima or something else, as long as there is something happening in the class, something new. But I think that with Machinima, there are so many other things that are good because you can make a film and you can use it many times, for example, and you can have many perspectives on it, and you can design a task in different way every time. But I think that maybe the disadvantages of Machinima have to do a lot with time and skills. So if a teacher who is very unfamiliar with virtual spaces, I think it's difficult to start making films right away. It takes a long time, and even after a long time, maybe the films are not the best quality.
Yeah, and it needs a lot of training too, doesn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you see a difference between using Machinima videos created in 3D worlds and real life videos? Using them, is there a difference?
Yes, I think that again the difference comes to the environment itself. Like I said, my colleagues, their students cannot go to the zoo when they are in the classroom. And in the same way, if you are making a film in the real world, well, maybe you're happy and you have a zoo in your town, but you can't find all the environments that you can find in the virtual world. So I think that making Machinima gives you so much more potential of what you want to do than the real world, and which is very strange because in the real world that's where you are.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. And did you or have you ever involved your students in the making of Machinima?
Yes, I have. Unfortunately, we had a project, and the students, they had to write a manuscript for a film, and they made everything, dialogue and everything, and even the characters. But filming, we didn't find the time on that course to do the actual filming of that film. So I was thinking, and I'm still thinking, that we will use the manuscript with another group of students so that they can just concentrate on making the film. But at the same time, I'm always kind of balancing between what kind of skills do I want my students to learn? I'm teaching language, so should I use a lot of time for them to make movies? I don't know yet. I haven't decided what to do with that.
But isn't it a part of learning or teaching a language when creating movies or analyzing the teaching?
Yeah, I think if it didn't take so much time to make that happen, if it was very quick process, they could just jump into the virtual world, have their avatar, know exactly how to move it, and just turn on a button to record everything they're doing and then just to edit it, I think it would be perfect. But at the same time, at the moment, I myself am not skilled enough to make it happen that smoothly. So I think that I will need some kind of competence education to find the easiest solutions. But I think I do agree with you that that it could be a very, very good part of my course.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it. And I think time is really an issue, and also technical things that don't work, that just might prevent you from creating, right? Creating machinima. But what genre of machinima would you prefer to use in teaching? You mentioned instructional, but are there any others?
Well, like I said, I would like to explore a bit more of how to use Machinima for storytelling in Sami.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would you prefer to use machinima in the physical classroom, or would you prefer to use them in virtual worlds?
I don't have a physical classroom anymore, so
Okay.
so I only meet my students. I meet them a couple of times a year in a physical classroom, but then we don't have time to look at Machinima. But I am with them in on these course platforms. I think that for me the potential of Machinima is maybe more in using it in teaching than doing things in the virtual worlds with that machine with my students,
Okay.
and it only has to do with time consuming.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that. And how important are mimic and gestures in a video for language learning?
I haven't really ever thought about that. I know that people are discussing that a lot. I think that I have never used a close shot of a face when they are
Okay.
speaking. So, but for Sami language, maybe I don't know. I don't quite know.
I mean, you mentioned that already, but the question is, can cultural differences be conveyed via machinima?
I think that some parts of the culture cannot be conveyed through machinima, but at the same time, there are many things that can be taught through machinima, and the way of thinking can be taught by machinima. But at the same time, of course, the real Sami cultural environment is different from the virtual environments, and that I always try to keep separately and think that whatever is in the virtual worlds, it will be different. It doesn't need to be worse or it just is different, and I need both of them. And so some parts of the culture I'm sure I can use machinima for. Some other parts I need other things for.
I mean, different in what way? I mean, what are the differences?
Well, it has to do with the physical reality. So, for example, handicrafts is very, very important part of the Sami culture. And
Okay.
in a virtual world, you might be able to watch, look at something, but you would not be able to make it, or you wouldn't be able to touch it for real. So you could be talking about it and watching it, and that could be the potential of the machinima, just to discuss things. And that
Okay.
is many times done in a university classroom anyway. You're not usually doing the things, you are talking about them. But for Sami teachers, we also think that there should be this kind of practical additional part of the course. And that we cannot really reach from Machinima. But it doesn't mean that Machinima doesn't give us other tools.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it would be practical in another dimension, wouldn't it? Because you create things in virtual worlds, don't you? So you could create patterns and things, but of course it would be totally a different thing.
Different,
But
yes.
yeah, yeah, I understand. And have you ever used other people's machinima for your language teaching?
Not for my language teaching, no.
Yeah.
No, because of language mostly.
Yeah.
But I've kind of, it's not a machinima use of it, but we have used the environment so that we have showed the environment and talked about it, but it
Okay.
hasn't been really a machinima, no.
Okay, just videos, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which kind of machinima or video attract your students most, do you think?
Well, for them, they have mostly seen the instructional ones that I have made for them. So
Uh-huh.
I don't think that they have had really time to find so many other genres. Yeah.
And do you think, or could you determine that the use of videos or machinima helps students to learn a language better?
I'm sure that if I could use it a bit more in my classes, I'm sure it would help. I just need to find the time and the way to work with that. So I'm sure that every new kind of tool or material can be helpful in some way. Yes.
Yeah, I believe that the use and creation of machinima can add to the quality of language learning. Would you agree? And in what
Yes,
way?
yes, certainly. I have myself seen films that have been used for other languages, and for me, just watching them, for example, a real example of this is these criminal stories. What are they called? The CSI, CEIS. Oh, I can't
Hmm.
remember the name of
Hmm.
them. That kind of stories are interesting because they resemble a movie that is already popular, and then they bring it into the virtual world, and you never know what happens because
Uh-huh.
the potential is even greater there. So
Yeah.
myself, I have found that for other languages, it has been useful for myself, and I'm sure that if we had the time, the money, the resources for Sami languages, that could be used in so many different ways for
Hmm.
example, the youth, the adolescent. So I'm sure it would be very helpful.
Hmm. Well, you know that I'm working in the Camelot project as research assistant at the moment, and the project offers training on how to make machinima. So if you know anybody, you're welcome. I know you're very limited with time, but there is a new course going to start in May. One is just running. This new one is starting on the 18th of May and will take about 5 weeks. So if you or any of your colleagues are interested, you're most welcome to join.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.